If you could look inside your own head right now, you would likely see a storm. Electrical signals firing in chaotic loops. A chemical bath of stress hormones. A relentless, chattering voice that refuses to shut up. We live in a world designed to keep this storm raging. But what if I told you there is a biological kill switch for that noise? A way to physically reach into your own nervous system and turn the dial down? For centuries, we thought this was magic. We thought it was purely spiritual, a matter of faith, intangible and unmeasurable. But we were wrong. Over the last 2 decades, neuroscientists have started dragging monks, nuns, and spiritual practitioners into hospitals. They've strapped them into fMRI machines, hooked them up to SPECT scans, and watched their brains in real time. And what they found is absolutely wild. We are no longer guessing. We can now see the exact neural pathways that light up when you pray. We can measure the chemical shifts in your blood. We are uncovering the hard science behind inner peace. This isn't just about religion. This is about the mechanics of the human machine. And it turns out, the ancient practice of prayer is actually a sophisticated form of neuroengineering that rewires your gray matter to survive the modern world. Let's start with the villain of this story. The reason you feel anxious. The reason you can't just be. It's a specific network of brain regions called the default mode network, or the DMN. Think of the DMN as your brain's screensaver. It kicks in the second you stop focusing on a task. When you're driving home and suddenly realize you don't remember the last 5 miles, that's the DMN taking the wheel. Now, in theory, this system is a gift. It allows for self-reflection. It lets you construct your identity. But in the modern world, the DMN has become a curse. It is the seat of the wandering mind. It is the time traveler that drags you into the past to regret a conversation you had 3 years ago, and then slingshots you into the future to panic about a meeting that hasn't happened yet. It is the neurological source of rumination. And for people with anxiety or depression, the DMN doesn't just wander, it sprints. It loops negative thoughts on repeat, like a broken record. But here is where the data gets fascinating. When researchers look at the brains of people engaged in focused, contemplative prayer, something incredible happens to the DMN. It goes dark. It quiets down. Specifically, prayers that involve repetition, chanting the rosary, or focusing on a single phrase of gratitude act as a jammer for that signal. You are essentially taking the needle off the record. You aren't just thinking about nothing. You are mechanically disengaging the neural circuit responsible for your unhappiness. You are training your brain to stop wandering and start inhabiting the present moment. But the impact doesn't stop at the brain. It travels down the spine. You have to understand that your body is constantly toggling between 2 operating systems. System A is the sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight. This is adrenaline. This is tension. This is survival. System B is the parasympathetic nervous system, rest and digest. This is healing. This is peace. Most of us spend our entire lives locked in System A. We are biologically bracing for a tiger attack that never comes, just reacting to emails and traffic. Prayer is the manual override. When you enter a state of deep prayer, your breathing changes. It slows. It deepens. This isn't just poetic. It's a mechanical trigger. That deep, rhythmic breathing physically stimulates the vagus nerve, the longest nerve in your body, running from your brain stem to your gut. Think of the vagus nerve as a brake pedal. When you stimulate it through the rhythmic cadence of prayer, it sends a chemical message back up to the brain screaming, "We are safe." Your heart rate variability, a key metric of health, spikes. Your blood pressure plummets. Your muscles unlock. You aren't just feeling peaceful. You are chemically forcing your body out of survival mode and into repair mode. This is the physiological sensation of letting go. Now, let's go deeper into the architecture of the brain itself. If the DMN is the villain, we need a hero. Enter the prefrontal cortex. This is the CEO of your brain. It lives right behind your forehead. It handles logic, empathy, emotional regulation, and focus. It's the adult in the room. But when you get stressed, your brain's primitive fear center, the amygdala, stages a coup. It hijacks the system. It shuts down the CEO and starts screaming, "Fire!" This is why you say things you regret when you're angry. Your CEO is offline. Prayer is the gym for your prefrontal cortex. Every time you bring your wandering mind back to a prayer, back to a specific intention, back to a deity, you are doing a rep. You are lifting heavy mental weights. Neuroimaging studies confirm this. People who pray regularly have thicker, stronger gray matter in the prefrontal cortex, and specifically, they show growth in the anterior cingulate cortex. This is the bridge between your emotions and your logic. By strengthening this bridge, you essentially bulletproof your mind against stress. The next time chaos hits, the amygdala tries to sound the alarm, but the CEO is strong enough to say, "No, we've got this." You become chemically harder to rattle. You become physically more resilient. And we can't talk about stress without talking about the poison in the blood. Cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone. In short bursts, it saves your life. In chronic doses, it kills you. It destroys your sleep, rots your immune system, and eats away at your hippocampus. There was a study published in the Journal of Medicine and Life that looked at Islamic prayer and cortisol levels. The results were shocking because they weren't linear. They found that prayer acted as a regulator. If a person was high-strung and flooded with cortisol, prayer brought the levels down. But if a person was burned out, lifeless, and depleted, prayer actually brought the cortisol up to a healthy baseline. It didn't just suppress the system, it tuned it. It pushed the body toward homeostasis, perfect biological balance. Finally, we have to look at the reward system. Why does prayer feel good? Why do people say they feel lifted? It comes down to the heavy hitters of brain chemistry, serotonin and dopamine. Serotonin is your mood stabilizer. Dopamine is your reward signal. Dr. Andrew Newberg, a pioneer in this field called neurotheology, conducted a study on people attending a 7-day spiritual retreat. He didn't just check their chemical levels, he looked at the transporters in their brains. Imagine these transporters as little vacuum cleaners that suck up the happy chemicals after they're used. After just 7 days of intensive prayer and meditation, the participants had fewer vacuum cleaners. This is huge. It means that every bit of dopamine and serotonin released in their brains hung around longer. It stayed in the synapse, amplifying the feeling of joy and connection. The brain had physically altered its own structure to maximize well-being. It optimized itself for happiness. So, what are we looking at here? We are looking at neuroplasticity in its purest form. The brain is not stone, it is clay. And prayer is the hands that shape it. When you pray, you are carving new riverbeds for your thoughts to flow down. You are abandoning the old, eroded pathways of anxiety and fear, and you are digging new channels of gratitude, focus, and calm. You don't have to be a monk on a mountaintop to access this. You just have to understand that peace is not something you find, it is something you build. It is a biological state that you can train your body to enter. Science isn't here to prove God exists, that's not its job. But science has proven, without a shadow of a doubt, that the mechanism of prayer is one of the most powerful tools we have to heal the human mind. The peace you are looking for is already inside you. You just have to know which buttons to press.